Welcome back to Bravo Breaking News. I am your host, Kim, aka Bravo Breaking News on Instagram. And we are fresh off the shocking Summer House finale. I mean, when I tell you guys that I was shook watching that scene between Carl and Lindsay, I am not exaggerating. And I got to get a sneak peek of it on Tuesday during the first ever watch party by Bravo. Yes, I was there at the Nickel Mine at Bravo's inaugural event in LA to watch this epic finale with hundreds of other Bravo fans, and it was nothing short of amazing. But of course, I had to watch the finale again when it aired last night because so much went down. I had to hear every single nugget of this conversation, and I am still thinking about it, so I thought I'd hop on and kind of recap those final finale moments, the scene between Carl and Lindsay, as well as the scene where all the girls come together, because there is a lot to discuss. So I'm going to get into it all, but before I dive in, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss any Bravo breaking news. Okay, so we all knew that this scene was coming. We knew that it happened. We knew that Carl called the cameras to come and break up with Lindsay. Lindsay was supposedly blindsided by it all. But the scene that we got, I think, completely exceeded my expectations. And we got a lot more insights into their relationship and into what was really happening behind the scenes during this season. So first of all, I think that they both went into the conversation on different pages as they have been on all season. I think that Lindsay at this point couldn't have said anything to change Carl's mind. I think that Carl was dead set on calling off the wedding. But I feel like Lindsay went into this conversation thinking that it was maybe just another, argument or discussion that they were going to have. I really don't think that she anticipated Carl actually calling off the wedding in this moment. But of course, he's going to reiterate their issues, and pretty much she just doesn't support him. She keeps shutting him down. He's trying to figure out his career. But to be honest, I don't know, guys. He's kind of throwing out these really lame ideas. The sober bar idea, Lindsay was not wrong. Opening a brick and mortar business, there are a lot of risks doing something like that. Then maybe he wanted to be an actor at one point or launch some cigars. I don't know. But to me, maybe Lindsay was right speaking out about this and sharing her opinion, because these aren't groundbreaking ideas, Carl. I'm sorry. But anyway, they share that, they've pretty much been fighting all summer and even in the past 2 weeks since they wrapped filming. Carl shares that Lindsay actually tried to record one of their conversations, which is kind of insane. I guess they got in a fight in the car, and she was basically saying, "Why did you propose to me? You've known who I am for 8 years. And he starts saying all these nasty things. I don't know why I proposed to you. And so Lindsay actually threatened to record the conversation. And this kind of rings alarm bells in my head because we've seen them fight on camera, but a lot has happened off camera. And I feel like at this point, Carl is kind of painting Lindsay to be the bad guy here. But the fact that there is something going on off camera that is so bad that Lindsay feels like she needs to record it in order for other people to see actually what goes on behind closed doors, I don't know, kind of makes me think that Carl isn't as innocent as he's portraying himself to be. It kind of seems like he does have an angry side and can kind of come at her behind the scenes in a way that we haven't really seen on camera. It's almost like he's doing it on purpose, guys. I don't know. Let me know if I am wrong. Let me know what you guys think. Lindsay reiterates that she's really, really trying to figure out what he needs from her, and he's not going to get softness no matter how many times he asks. That's just not who she is. She says anything he asks for gets clouded by when he gets angry. And that's when he kind of shuts her down again. He says, that's where we're on two different pages. Reality and what you spin reality to be. She's very gifted at playing the victim. And I almost think that maybe Carl is kind of talking about himself at this point. I don't know. It's really scary, the fact that we've seen them go at it on camera. But I think that there's a lot more to this story that is going on behind closed doors. And I think that Carl is trying to protect his image on camera as much as he can and almost spin things around on Lindsay in the process. But Lindsay is not innocent because he says, she continues to bulldoze me. You've called me a little bitch, a little baby, a mama's boy. You run home to your parents. I don't know. Is she really wrong? This is where he absolutely loses me. When he tells her that he thinks she wants him to relapse. Why on earth would she ever want that? He thinks that she wants him to relapse so she can continue to control him and make decisions for them both. Now, let's be real. Lindsay is definitely the alpha in this relationship, but for him to point that on her and tell her that he thinks she wants him to relapse after being sober for almost 2 years at this point, I think is a completely unfair accusation, and by no means would anybody ever want that for their partner. And this is kind of where he decides to call it off. He says, he's not ready to get married. He doesn't think they're ready. He's unhappy. He doesn't think they're going to improve, and it's just not working. And this is where I think Lindsay is really blindsided. I don't think that she thought that Carl was going to call it off. She is ready to put in the work. She's asking him, why are you giving up? You're taking the easy road out. I am willing to do these 15 extra things before we actually call it off. Now, it seems like Carl seems to think that they've already tried everything in the book. I guess they've been going to therapy and it hasn't been working. They haven't really been making progress. So what else is there? I think he feels like they've kind of hit a dead end, whereas Lindsay doesn't seem to be there quite yet. She's still willing to put in the work. Now, I want to get your guys' thoughts on this because we know that Lindsay has always had a timeline of her life. She had it written down, everything that she wanted, the age that she wanted it at. She had everything planned out. So do you think that her willingness to work through in this relationship is more due to the fact that she wanted to start a family and more be on her life timeline, or that she was in fact really in love with Carl? At this point, she pretty much feels like she doesn't have a decision to make. He's made the decision, he's calling it off, and she just has to accept it. She's basically like, do you want me to fight for this? And he's like, no. She's like, I'm not going to sit there and beg for you to marry me. And he's like, I don't want that. So at this point, I think it's pretty much over. She goes to call her dad and tell him what went down during the conversation. And Carl shares another interesting nugget, which is the fact that there have actually been noise complaints from their neighbors in their apartment building due to them fighting. And now this is another red flag. I mean, if you are about to get married and your neighbors are calling, the management on you because you're being too loud, there's a major issue here and you should not be married. Now, I definitely think that Lindsay, yes, she does have her opinions. She was a little hard on Kyle, maybe giving him some tough love. However, I do feel like that's what he needed in that moment. I also do think that he is trying to paint her to be the crazy one when he has issues himself. I mean, if Lindsay tried to record a conversation between them, that goes to show that there's something going on behind closed doors that she wants people to know that we're not seeing. At the end of the day, I don't know. I think I do tend to be more on Team Lindsay, but I think I am actually going to choose to be Team Paige, because when the girls gather around to kind of console Lindsay a couple days after this happened, Paige is kind of the voice of reason. She's pretty much saying he did them both a favor. They shouldn't have been married. He should have never proposed. And I think she hit the nail on the head. I mean, this was really never going to work. I think if they even did end up getting married, I think, like Carl said, they were going to continue to be in therapy. I'm not sure they were going to make progress. And I think it might have ended in divorce. So better end it now than after they actually got married. Amanda's also seeing it from both sides too. And a lot of people are having issues with what Amanda was saying, how, basically Carl and Lindsay are both to blame. They have both said fucked up shit to each other. She hears it from both sides. And of course, Gabby is defending Lindsay to the death. But I don't know. Amanda's basically saying they weren't making any progress in therapy, and it just was never going to work on either end. We then get Lindsay come in and, she shares her side of the story, which I do feel for her. They've known each other for 8 years. They've been best friends for 8 years. She's been in love with him basically that entire time. And the fact that Carl seemed to think that once they got together, Lindsay would suddenly change and become a different person, I think is unrealistic and unfair to her. He knows her. He's seen her in these past relationships and how she acts. She gets activated. She is not a soft person whatsoever. She is going to tell it like it is and kind of give you that tough love. And it doesn't seem like Carl was ready for that, even though he pretended he was. So I don't know, guys. I don't know whose side to be on. I think right now I'm going to be Team Paige, because I don't think they should have ever been together in the first place. I think that they should have remained friends, because now that 8-year friendship that they worked so hard on is now over as well. She lost a best friend and a fiance all in one fell swoop. And I don't really know how they're going to move forward, especially if they film again in the summer house together this summer. Now, we are not done with Summer House. We still have the reunion coming up, and I have been hearing that this week's after show actually spills a lot more details. We saw the scene with all the girls coming together for Lindsay, and everybody was kind of like, why didn't we get that for Vanderpump Rules? Of course, Lala and Sheena didn't show up for Ariana. They were not supportive of her during the season. And it kind of seems like maybe the girls of Summer House might have taken that approach after the season stopped filming, because in the after show, I've been hearing that Paige is calling Lindsay out, and we might be getting another side to the story. So I haven't watched yet. I am going to watch the after show today and break it down for you guys. So make sure you tune into that and more Bravo breaking news to come.